Here we are going to paint a portrait for a very attractive lady in America, for her husband in fact, and he sent me a series of photographs as you've just seen, the most attractive of which we've decided is this one, and we're going to take a composite again. We've looked at the things that she likes most for the background, whether it be the blue mountains where they first met, or whether it be yellow for the yellow flowers, the yellow poppies or poppies. And in the end we've decided that this peach blossom would be the nicest to use. So I've drawn out the basic composition onto a canvas and we're about to make a start. I should do the background last, so I'm going to start by working on to just getting a layer of colour onto the hair at first and letting that dry to gradually work into, because I want quite a lot of fine detail on this, and then I'll start building up the colours for the flesh tones. So I'm going to start by putting a slight wash of yellow ochre. I should be using quite a bit of yellow ochre on this, and I should bring up these creams later with lemon yellow and cooler yellows. I want a fairly warm yellow at first. A little bit of burnt umber into that just to dull it down a bit. That's better. There we are. This is just to give myself a basic, get rid of this white, this tone. You can see my drawing through it. I'm just going to wash this over here just to get rid of this bright white canvas at first. So it's fairly rough painting at first, as you can see. Just to cover this up. Nice and quick, nice and loose. I'll get more and more detail as we go on. And as you go down to a slightly smaller brush, and we'll start to work up the flesh tones. And that'll give this time to dry off. Using a lot of terps in the paint as well will allow that, facilitate that. I want a fair amount of body colour in this, so in other words I'm going to put quite a bit of white into these colours at first to get it going. And I'm going to start with burnt umber and white and a little touch of the yellow ochre. Some of these shaded areas here, just tickling it up into there. The slightly shadowed areas at first. Then come back to the yellow ochre and white, a lot lighter. You can see how the white makes it a lot more pale and slightly pasty. But I just want to lose at the moment this white canvas. I can start to see my colours properly. Start to work on some of the shading already. We'll let the pencil marks just show through at the moment. That's the advantage, I can still see where my pencil marks are to continue work. I want to go a little bit warmer, so I'm going to take some burnt sienna. We're not going to the bright reds or anything yet, we're going to keep to quite subtle colours. And white. And then we'll start to get a bit of modelling. Right, I've got to work into the eyes a little, and that's slightly creamier, so I'm going to use a little bit of white and a touch of chrome and the smallest touch of blue as well, just to tint it down a bit. Get the basic colours worked out first. Get these colours established, and more detail as we go on. And while I'm at that, I'm going to look at the blue-grey of the eyes. I'm going to take some cobalt, again a bit of white because I need some body colour. Put a tiniest touch of burnt sienna into that to make it into a grey. And then we'll bring that into those eyes there. So we've got this lovely soft blue-grey. It's quite a strong blue-grey, and it's going to want to be warmed up a bit in a minute, but we'll just get back in there with our flesh tones first and correct that eye. And we've got to start feeling our warms and cools in a minute as well. Just tidy up the drawing around the eyes first. Try and get the most important points sorted. And while I'm at that, I'll just look at the pupils. And to make a dark, we're not going to use black. Again, we'll be making greys. So I'm going to take the, not quite my deepest blue. My deepest blue is pressure. I'm taking my Cobalt, so my ultramarine blue, and a little touch of that's burnt umber, adding that to it. Very starey at the moment, but we'll soften all of this down with these eyes. Get these working a lot better soon. So at the moment I'm working on the eyes. I'm going to take a bit more burnt sienna now, and a touch of that blue to it, just to bring it down a bit. And we'll just find the warmth of those eyelids a bit more there. So we're using mainly earth colours at the moment, the way that the warmth comes round into the eyes, which is going to help to bring out the blueness of the blue. Now I want a little bit of that cream that we were using earlier to really get the effects of the iris. A little bit of ultramarine and cobalt into the blue there to really start to get a bit of a flash of. And then back again, still to the cream. I really want to get the glassiness and the depth of the eye. Now back to the darks again. This is our burnt umber and ultramarine again. Back to the blue. A bit stronger, that blue coming in there. About got the eye now. Got the eyes. I'm trying not to use very strong colours yet. I'm just keeping to my earth colours at the moment as I build this up. Establish basics of the portrait. Very nice. I need to start looking at some slightly greener tints, just adding a little bit of green into this now for the shadows. Gently blending. I want to be very gentle and subtle with these colours in this case. Painting. And the little slightly cooler tints as well, because we've got that green there, but we've also got a little bit of blue starting to come in now to the shadows up into here. Look for these colours. And build up these ever so carefully. Nice subtle shades of lights. Well, so far we've only worked with just a few colours. We've used white, burnt sienna and yellow ochre, and a little touch of burnt umber, with a tiny touch of cobalt blue and ultramarine blue here and there. We're going to work up more colour as we go. Oh yes, there was a little touch of the greens into the shadows as well. Now, as we go along, we're going to obviously work up much more of the darks. Next, I want to take a larger brush again and work in some of these darker areas of the hair. So I'll take some more ultramarine blue, and some more of my burnt umber, and go straight in there with both the warms and the darks. That's fairly warm just there with the amount of burnt umber I've used. I'm also going to be coming in fairly strongly with the ultramarine blue into there as well in a moment. Take a bit more of the blue now. A little touch of cobalt, because these cool blues are going to help to bring the warms out. See, at the moment all I'm doing is just covering up the canvas to get rid of, so I can see what I'm doing. We don't need black. As an impressionist I hardly ever use black, and if I do I use it as a colour rather than, I tend to make it look like a blue rather than a black. I'll need to use a finer brush on this later on, but at the moment, again, let's just get rid of the white and establish things. Always try to keep the whole picture going as much as possible, in other words not finish one area too much. Not easy at a painting like this when we have so much to do. Working out some of the composition. So if I get rid of this white completely, what I'm going to do now is take some white and a little touch of rose, just establish in some of these pinks. In fact, most of it actually is much cooler. Take a little bit of violet, a little bit of purple, and get that in there. Get back in with the creams later. Let's just totally get rid of these whites. I'm not being at all accurate at the moment. All I'm doing is just covering canvas really, just putting in tones and colours approximately where they're going to be, and I'll work them up later. Having got that colour on there, we start to see how much more this cool colour is going to be coming into the hair as well. So one colour always affects another. And how that colour now starts to actually come onto the face. A little bit of reflected light, just glazed across, giving her some life, cool tones reflecting into the face. Even coming into the eyes a little. The rose, so we're going into a true red now. The burnt sienna wasn't really, it was just giving us a nice overall warmth. Now we want to start adding a bit of real red, which will make the other seem softer. And we'll start to add a little glisten to the eye, a bit of that same pink, this time with a little touch of cream in it, just to put a little light highlight around the edge of the eye here. So behind that then there should be a bit of dark as well. Don't overdo the creases or lines on the face. Smile lines are lovely and delightful. We want to indicate, not bring them out too much. And by using the opposites, the colour circle, we can start to make things like the blues stand out more. Okay, back to the hair now. This is going to take quite a bit of work. I'll start with a medium brush. A little flat, Let's start to work up these darks first. I'll take some burnt sienna and ultramarine. Let's just look at the warmer darks in that. And by a series of brush strokes, letting darks shine over light, shine through lights, and lights over darks will start to build up the feeling of the hair here. So the general idea is to try and get these textures built up of the hair without actually painting too much of the hair. To give the illusion of it rather than every single little brushstroke. And I'm still using my burnt sienna and ultramarine. You can see how as I build up these lights and darks we start to get the feeling of a three-dimensional effect. I'm going to want to get a finer brush, and we'll start looking at the blondness, the cool yellows shortly. We've been using warm yellows up until now, yellow ochre and burnt sienna. We're going to be moving into lemon yellows shortly. And when I put that next to the flesh, we'll see how much cooler that is. You see there? And it'll make the tints of the skin seem so much nicer. Stroke after stroke, building it up. And suddenly the portrait starts to come to life. As indeed this colour will as it comes forward on the face, being lighter. You play between the warm and the cools. In every colour, remember, there is a warm and a cool. No matter what it is, whether it's a red or a green or a brown, there's always a cooler version of it and a warmer version of it. And although I'm putting all this cream on, I'm going to put a little bit of light blue across this in a minute, because the light lighter that is, and it looks like a cream, but it isn't. It's definitely a cool, and because it's a cool, it's going to help the other warm seem warmer again. Now back to my very light, and we're going to play in between now, going back from light to dark to light, because we now want these little bits of golden hair just shining down across the front here, just coming down. Done most of the lighter areas of the hair now. I'm just starting to work up a few more of these light tones. As well as that, we'll go back in with the darks. That's better. It isn't the thing you think is wrong that actually is. That's what we've got to try and get here, is just what it is that actually isn't working. Right, I think it's time to be looking at a bit around the flowers now. Take a small brush again. It's more flat this time. And let's look at some of these very light creams and pinks on here. There are some very, very light colours, almost to blues. And then we have a painting that isn't just a copy of portrait, it's something a bit more. We've got the play of light and colour and atmosphere. Got a mood that we're trying to create about the feeling of the person. A bit of cadmium orange and white here.